What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through most of the trades that we took throughout the week, why we took them, how we read the market this week. So this week was definitely not the best week at all in terms of trading. I didn't take that many trades. It was just a very weird market, I'd say, for this week. So on the 30-minute chart, you guys know, this is what tells us the trend in the market. So if these are crossed, if the calls are crossed, that means we're bullish. If the puts are crossed, that means we are bearish. And if neither are crossed, that means we're neutral. So by crossed, I mean these two SMAs. So this 50 SMA is the blue, the 10 SMA is the green. If the 10 is above the 50, like how it was for a good chunk of the week on the call side, that means we are crossed bullish in this case, because the 10 is above the 50, as you guys see. What day was this? Like Thursday and a Friday. We were bullish, and then we were also bullish on the open at Monday, recrossed on Tuesday, and then it was just a weird bullish trend for this week, because we kept getting these little crosses. Like we crossed right here, didn't wasn't too much of a trend, and then we broke below it, recrossed, flip back bullish. So these overnight gap ups and gap downs kind of made it difficult to trade, because you guys could see right here, like we intraday we get these, we get the trend, and then overnight, boom, we lost the trend, and then during the day it'll reflip, and then we got this massive gap up on for the following day that flipped us back bullish. So it was a weird trend, to say the least, and really didn't take many trades this week. If you guys were in the Discord, they didn't really call many things out, because I just wasn't there wasn't much to take, and I wasn't too keen on trading this price action this week. Just hasn't been the best. So this is what we looked like at the start of the week. So obviously we didn't have these 555s, but the charts are pretty similar. So if we go back to Monday, this is where we opened up at. So at the Monday open, 9:30, we were bullish. Why? Because the 10 SMA is above the 50. 10 SMA is the green again, 50 is the blue. And at the open, we were bullish because we opened right up in here. SMAs are crossed, and we're bullish until this 50 SMA gets broken below. And you can see we ended up pulling back to this 50 here, and we got a little wick off of it, and then eventually just closed below the 50 SMA here. And at this moment, we're pretty much neutral until we recross on this chart. So this is what the charts looked like at open on Monday, and this is actually a trade I did take. So since what we just went over, that 30-minute chart is bullish, and I'm only focused on longs, and this is what we looked like at the open at 950, or not at the open, but a little bit after open at 950. We had this chart right here. So the calls ended up opening somewhere at 9:30. Where was 9:30? One of these candles down here, we opened below the 50, or broke below the 50, and then we got back above 10s, going back above the 50. So I ended up taking an entry right here at 950, and I ended up taking a loss on this trade, because right here I took my entry at the 10, the 50 SMA. This is like the best opportunity to get an entry point on like a cross. It's a low risk right at the 10.50. We ended up getting a nice little wick off of it, and then eventually this candle ended up slamming back down and closing below the 50. And I think I took like a 30-point loss on this, just because I didn't hold it all the way. Once it got back below, once it started to break below the 10, the 50, I got out, and I just kept my loss small on that. But the only thing I could have really done right here was wait a little longer, because this was right at the open of a candle, and sometimes when you enter off of like the direct open of a candle, it still has 5 minutes where it could change. So if I gave it another 2-3 minutes, that would have been a lot better. But since we are in a bullish market, I did take my chances, and it just didn't work out in my favor. So that was a trade that we took on Monday. But yeah, it did look really good. If this candle ended up flipping green, it would have played out perfectly. I would take that trade probably any day of the week. So yeah, is what it is. Took an L there. And then this is just a look of what the chart did look like on Monday. I'm pretty sure this is where we opened up at. Trying to figure out here what this screenshot is, but this is what we looked like at some point on Monday, I believe. And then we ended up getting this wick right here. I'm trying to look at them. Yeah, this was at the Monday open, I believe. Right, I think this is the day before, maybe. This is where we closed at, and then you can see on the 30-minute chart we were pulling back into the 50, and we lost that 50 SMA. And yeah, that was also another thing. Right off of the open, we were sitting at that 50 SMA, so that paired with this chart. I mean, I decided to take my chances there and just didn't end up working out. But on Monday we ended up breaking below the 50 SMA on the 30-minute. Most likely, since the 10's pointing down, we got a candle closure below the 50. This next candle here is going below the 50. Most likely we're going neutral right here. We're pretty much neutral at this point. And yeah, you can see what happened though. Like the rest of the day, we end up coming back up, breaking above the 50 into the rest of the day, and the market was pretty much flipping bullish on Tuesday. So you can see 10's going back above the 50. It was a little bit of a choppy action right here, and looks like based on this chart, 10's up super hard, the 50's curling. Most likely we're flipping back bullish right here, and we ended up catching a good setup off of here. So this is what I took on Tuesday, I believe, the 29th. Yeah, this is the 29th on the 0-day chart. So I was just looking for a 10 SMA reclaim, and I didn't take this reclaim right here because at the time this 10 SMA was down super hard, and the 10 SMA is something you have to look for when you are taking a reclaim. If it's sloped down super hard and we get a closure above the 10, I am not taking the trade because a lot of the times it'll end up pulling back, and we'll end up this 10 will eventually start to curl and flatten out and then curl up. So once we got that curl up over here, this is where the reclaim looked a lot better, because when the 10 SMA is pointed down like this, usually doesn't end up playing out well. Sometimes it will, but I wanted to get a good entry on this and take a high quality trade. This wasn't a high quality trade with how the 10 looked. So we ended up breaking below the 10, the 50 here, and I was just waiting for the reclaim. So at the time we weren't crossed, so I'm not buying this 50 SMA dip. You guys could see the time here, 10:55. This was 10 minutes. This is 10 minutes after this screenshot right here. So I wasn't buying this 50 dip. Market's still neutral because we are not technically crossed yet. Even though it does look pretty bullish, I'm not buying the 50 until we know the market's bullish. So this is a trade that I took. I didn't go long right here. I went long on this candle because the SMAs did look a little weird. So I was giving it some time, and I waited for this candle right here because I'm like, okay, it's a low risk. The 50's really close, the 50's pointed up, and looks solid. So we went long right there, and look at the move we got out of it. I think it was like 60-70 points we got out of this move. Really nice. And I ended up getting stop break even on the runners that I had because this did pull back. You can see right here we got this nice move higher. Is this the same screenshot? I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was back in here. We ended up pulling back and we lost the 50. And then from there, I really wasn't interested in anything else because the market was moving a bit weird. The only thing that I was looking for, though, was if this chart went negative and recross, I'm taking that trade 100% because I know that 30-minute chart is looking to cross bullish. As you can see back in here, it did look like we were going to flip bullish. And if we got a cross on the calls, that was most likely going to confirm that bulls have this trend and we're going to go higher. So this is what the setup looked like right here. 10's going above the 50. This is a bit of an early entry, but this 10 SMA is sloped up super hard. The 50's flattening out. Price is getting candles above the 50. It looks really good, so we went long, and you can see that the move we got out of it. Very nice move. I'm pretty sure these contracts went over $5, like $5.20 maybe. They went to before it ended up pulling back a bit, but we caught a really good move out of there. And you can see what this 30-minute chart looked like. I mean, we got this move higher. The chart ended up crossing right here on the 30-minute on that last move higher from this, entry that we had. And when we got this pullback, this pullback to the 50 on the chart. So once we pulled back to the 50, it's like, okay, if this holds, we're probably going to go cross on the calls, which we did, which was right here. So this short crosses, we're most likely going to get a pretty solid move, and that's what happened right here. We got this 0-day cross, and we exploded higher. So that's how we ended up playing. I'm pretty sure that was, what, Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday was the 29th. So yeah, that was Tuesday. And going into Wednesday, this is what the chart looked like. Still bullish. 10's above the 50. I'm bullish until the 50 gets lost. And then this is Colton's screenshot, so it's a little funky looking, but I know this is something he took. I don't think I took any trades on Thursday, but this chart here on the puts was going negative. There was puts ended up getting crossed. I'm pretty sure the bulls lost the trend on the 30-minute. We ended up getting a big move overnight, I think, and gapping down. So the puts actually ended up hitting the 30-minute 50, I believe. If we go here, pretty sure on Thursday the puts did hit this 50. Yeah, right here. We end up coming in this 50 SMA, on Wednesday actually. So on Wednesday, there's a big overnight move, and we end up gapping down, and the bulls lost the trend. So we were just looking to see if this chart would cross, or if I mean, we're looking to see if this chart would cross, and if it did, market would be bearish, and if it didn't, then we would play the negative cross on the 0-day chart, and this is what Colton was taking. So this chart right here, the 5-minute chart, it looks a little funky because, I don't know, his screenshot's a little different when I pulled up, but 10's going below the 50 on the puts. He went long, and I'm pretty sure he caught a solid move out of this, or he got stop break even after it ran up like 40 points or 30 points, something like that. And, you know, it was just a choppier move lower, and, you know, it was a solid setup to take. I think I sat out of this one because I just didn't like how we were moving. We had Trump on the mic, I'm pretty sure, at, what was it, like 10 or 11 o'clock when this trade was happening. So I just sat out. It was a choppier move, ended up playing out, but just not something that I took. I'm just going over, you know, something that was taken in the Discord by Colton. But yeah, other than that, there was this setup on the 30th, which was what, on Thursday, or no, not Thursday, what am I saying, on Wednesday. This is another setup that, you know, came about, but we got this call across right here. 10's going above the 50. Got this nice pullback here to the 10 where you could have entered. You know, it was a little choppy up in here. You could have looked for an entry right on this candle because we got the pullback to the 10, the 50, low risk if you entered here. You know, it stops below the 50, super tight, and we got this massive candle that came out. So, you know, I know this is a news candle, so you just had to get lucky, I guess you could say, because that candle went the other way, you would have been screwed. And that's why I've been saying you got to have those manual stops in place, because the price action in the last like 2 weeks, there's been random news candles like every single day. It's really weird. I've never seen this happen like so many times before. So yeah, make sure to have like a manual stop in place when you're in a trade, because you're not gonna have enough time to react when we get these wild candles. But you know, ended up playing out. You'd have sold on that move up. I mean, it was a massive, it was like 50 to 70 point move. I think like 80 points maybe, something like that. But yeah, that ended up playing out very quickly if you took. And then on Thursday, I'm not sure if I took anything on Thursday. What was Thursday? The 1st. I don't think I took anything on Thursday. I'm trying to go back here of what was in the Discord, but I don't think anything was taken on Thursday. Oh yeah, so we ended up getting a 50 dip on the 0-day chart on Thursday, and I actually didn't take this. I just wasn't confident in the 50 SMA holding because we were at a very key spot on the Friday contracts. So if I pull up the Friday contracts on Thursday, this is what we looked like. So on Thursday, we were at the 4-hour 50 SMA, and this chart doesn't really show it too great, but because these are different contracts, we were at this 4-hour 50 on Thursday, this candle right here. And you know, the reason I didn't think it was going to hold, because this 50 SMA was slowed down super hard, and if we came down on the 50 on the 0-day chart, I'm like, okay, this is going to get like a big wick, and we're probably going to reject this 4-hour 50, and that's exactly what happened. The 5-minute 50 didn't end up holding, and we, you know, you could have bought that 50, because if you guys know, we are bullish on the 30-minute, so, or we were bullish on the 30-minute whenever that came about on Thursday, yeah, which was, you know, this day right here. And since we're bullish, you could buy the 50 dip on the 0-day chart. Personally, I sat out of it. I was looking for the, you know, I would have taken it if, you know, we got some sort of bounce on the 50 first. I was looking for some sort of reaction on that 5-minute 50 SMA bounce before I got in, but we ended up just knifing through it. Like, there was a 5-minute candle I was watching to see if we could, you know, start to get some bounces off of it, which just didn't end up happening. We just knifed right through the 50. 5-minute candle was a fat red candle. Went right through it, close below it, and at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not taking an entry, because we already close below it. If we got back above like the 10, the 50 SMA, I would have, you know, considered taking a position, but we never got that. And yeah, that's pretty much how Thursday went. There really wasn't anything going on Thursday. But that's pretty much what we did throughout the week. Not the easiest week, because, you know, the action was just weird. Like I said, we've been getting these overnight moves. I mean, we got a gap down right here, we got a gap up over here. So this trend definitely hasn't been the best so far this year. The bearish trends have been a lot better and easier to trade versus the bullish trends. I feel like the bulls just haven't been able to give you know, clean trend days where we're just grinding like aggressively higher. You know, the bears definitely been easier to trade this year, just based on like the price action when we are in these trends. But yeah, that's what we did throughout the week. Again, when the like price action's not in your favor, it's better just to sit out. Like, I didn't take that many trades this week. Same thing with Friday. I'm not going to go over the trades we took. I'll save that for tomorrow. But again, price action wasn't the best, and, you know, just size lower or size less, and Just wait for the better times to come, because there's always another day that you could place, a trade. Market's not going anywhere. It wasn't the worst week in the world. Still came out green, but just definitely not the easiest week to trade. But that's pretty much all I got. If you guys enjoyed, drop a sub. If you guys have any questions, drop a comment. I'm telling you, this is the best way to trade, even though, there's some bad, if you look at these trades throughout the week, yeah, it wasn't the best, but that goes, every strategy is going to have, bad weeks. It's just how it is. When price action is not moving, it's just, no strategy is going to be like shining in every market. So, with this strategy, it does best when we do have some, good movement. If we're choppy, I tend to stay out of the market when we are choppy. And usually that comes when we are neutral. Sometimes it does come with trend, which, it did happen this week. So, yeah, if you guys have a question, drop a comment. If you guys want to learn, join Discord down below. We have different channels. We have recordings of streams that Colton's done that goes over pretty much everything. There's plenty of hours of recordings in there, as well as a section that has like a year's worth of trades that Colton gave out, and screenshots of all that, of how he took them, where he took them, things like that. So if you guys want to learn, that is definitely the place to be. It's worth the value in there. And yeah, that's all I got. I'm out. Peace.